Hey, this is Wes. I'm here to talk about four-way stops, all-way stops. Hopefully you can learn a lot from this lesson here. Hopefully my camera works okay. I just wanted to put this together, and I hope you should get a good idea of what I'm going with this. Okay, so a lot of times I don't focus on how to do a four-way stop. First of all, it's very easy to learn the procedure to who goes at a four-way stop. There's YouTube videos on it, books, parents, anybody can tell you how to do a four-way stop, the procedure to do it. What I like to focus on is how can doing a four-way stop correctly get you killed? Now, that's a real tough thing to process. It's like, well, wait a second, if I do a four-way stop correctly, I should be fine. No. I mean, if you do anything in driving correctly, it does not mean you'll be fine. It means that you may not hit somebody else, but you can get hit by somebody else. So a lot of times too much emphasis is placed on how to do it correctly. In fact, many times people will judge a person's driving by how well they do a four-way stop. I've had parents say, my student is not getting how to drive. They're not understanding it. And I ask, well, can you give me an example? And they say, the first thing all parents say is, well, my student is not understanding how to do a four-way stop. And it's like, okay. So I've gone out with students and we come to a four-way stop and I watch them. And a lot of times a student may not go when it's their turn to go. But then they make it through the four-way stop safely. So personally, I don't really have much of a big deal about that. Doing the four-way stop correctly does not guarantee safely. I've had most of my students will take a little bit of extra time to make sure they don't get hit by a guy running the stop sign. You know, we put too much trust in other drivers. We can look at somebody coming down a road and say, and it's easy to say, well, that person is coming to a stop sign, they should stop. Well, how do you know? There's only one way to truly know, and that's to watch them come to a stop. But a lot of times we put too much trust on these people, and a lot of times it's not necessarily trust, it's just the fact that we're in a hurry. When you're in a hurry to get somewhere, or you feel the pressure from people behind you or other types of pressure, a lot of times it enables you to make a bad judgment. Rather than a judgment of, hey, it's safe to go, a lot of times, well, it's safe to go and I'm also in a hurry, or there's also people putting pressure on me. No. Those should not be factors. Again, being in a hurry, that's time management. That's on your own. That's figuring out your schedule. Feeling pressure from other drivers, that is a very real thing. You have to fight against that. You have to override the pressure from other drivers by simply having knowledge and a desire to arrive at your destination safely. And if that means being a little selfish, oh well. Okay, so here I got my board here, and I'm going to kind of run you through what I'm talking about here. So let's say you get to this four-way stop first. Now, before I go on, one of the big dilemmas with four-way stops is people's definition of what is a complete stop. What is getting to the four-way stop first? There's my definition of who gets to a four-way stop first is the person who comes to a complete stop first. Now, I probably shouldn't have that definition because most people don't come to a full complete stop. So sometimes another driver will come to the four-way stop before me, but only I will come to a full complete stop first. So sometimes I'll come to a full complete stop, and I'll think of that as, well, I came to the stop first, the actual complete stop first. So I might start to pull out, and of course the other person pulls out because they're thinking, no, I got to the stop first. You got to the intersection first. But in my opinion, it should be it's who comes to a complete stop. Now, I think my opinion is changing basically because nobody comes to a full complete stop at a four-way stop. Everybody just kind of does these rolls. So I think I'm going to start changing my definition of it. But what I'm getting at is that is a a frustrating situation, because you might have a different definition of what a full complete stop is first. So give it time, you'll know what I'm talking about there. Okay, again, somebody could get to the stop sign first, but they don't actually come to a complete stop first, and you're thinking, well, I came to a complete stop, and they kept on rolling, so I'm just going to go ahead and go, because by law, well, be careful with that. Again, I think I'm going to change my definition of it. So anyways, that's just something to keep in mind that might frustrate you. So back to this. So let's say you get to this four-way stop first. And let's say you have a blind spot here. And by the way, if you're taking my course, this is what I'll talk about on the third drive. And there's a blind spot here. So, of course, you cannot pull out blindly, and we're not going to trust that if somebody's coming, they should come to a stop. We've got to make sure that and see who is coming. We've got to see who's going to kill us. Sorry, I don't mean to talk so bluntly, but that's how it is. We just got to see who is going to kill you. Okay, so this is your first major check area right here. So basically, let's say I'm turning left. I've got to make sure this area is okay. So I'll start to inch out and creep out. Now, this is where a lot of people would say, well, this is why you should go right to the edge. You should never go to the edge in any situation, because the first potential problem at every intersection in the entire world is pedestrians and bicycles. Doesn't matter whether there's a crosswalk there or not. You always stop further back to allow an area for possibly a pedestrian or bicyclist to cross in front of you. So a lot of people don't like stopping further back because they don't like that inching out. They just want to stop at the edge where they have better visibility. But again, they're skipping that first step. The first potential problem is always pedestrian bicycles. Once that's good, then you inch out. And again, when you do inch out, it's always best, 1, don't give it gas, and 2, keep your foot gently resting on the brake. That way your brake lights are engaged, and you're not miscommunicating to the guy in back of you that you're pulling out. You're actually just inching out, getting into a better position. So we'll creep on out. But here's the thing. Let's say you are trying to fix this visibility issue and you're creeping on out. Okay. And let's say somebody is then coming. Let's say somebody is already here. Okay. So again, you're now feeling pressure. Somebody has pulled up here. They got here second. Technically, you got here first. You have the right of way to go. But you want to fix this blind spot. This is where this person could get a little upset and impatient and just go. Okay, because you're inching out. You're trying to make sure that's good. Okay, so you're inching out. Meanwhile, you're feeling the pressure from this guy. He's looking at you. You may notice there's people in back of you. And you're thinking, you know what, I got to make sure it's okay over here. So what I would do in this situation to relieve this pressure and just be an ethical driver is just wave this guy on. Now, keep in mind, if you wave him on, a lot of times people will wave back. They kind of deflect your wave. And then that puts a lot of pressure on you. Okay, and you can't give in to that pressure. You've got to be able to fix this. So again, here's a situation where this guy gets impatient and just goes, or maybe you wave him on and he goes and you're thinking, I didn't do that correctly, or mom or dad or somebody saying, you didn't do that correctly, it was your turn to go. Yes, but you had to make sure you wouldn't get killed here. Now, here's another situation. This could be very common. Let's say you get here first, everything's cool, but you see a car coming down the road here. And you're thinking, you know what? I can wait. I can wait for this car and see if he actually stops. Maybe I'm not in a rush. I planned my day out pretty good. And, you know, I have a few extra minutes to get to my destination, so you don't feel that kind of pressure. And you're thinking, hey, you know what? Nobody in back of me, nobody on the sides. I'm gonna wait and make sure he actually comes to a stop. Sounds good, right? Easy to do. But then all of a sudden this guy shows up. He gets here second. And then not only do you have that pressure, but you notice that there's people in back of you. Pressure, pressure. Okay? So not only do you have this guy looking at you, and he's waiting for you to go, but you have people in back of you here. So again, here's another situation where you might do this left turn even though this guy's coming, because you're feeling pressure. And that's just the pressure from other drivers. Now, that's not talking about pressure as in you're late to your destination. But a lot of times, people are so late for their destination and they feel the pressure, then all of a sudden they have too much trust. Trust is a huge thing that causes collisions, causes people to pull out. And a lot of times that trust is simply because you are feeling pressure. Okay, whenever we're in situations where we feel pressure, a lot of times we try to trust things or say things to ourselves that make us feel better to relieve the stress. Well, in actuality, it's not a good, safe, logical. You don't say, well, I see a guy coming and he's coming to a stop sign. He should stop, so I'm going to pull on out. No. Okay, so there's a situation right there. Now, let's say you're waiting on this guy. Okay, you got here first, and this guy gets here. So let's say he gets here second. So you notice this guy got here second. He's putting pressure on you, looking right at you. You notice there's people in back of you, and you're thinking, again, I don't want to do this left turn. Now imagine not only that, but this guy shows up, all within a few seconds. Okay, so you got pressure. This guy's definitely putting the pressure on you. This guy's putting pressure. You know this guy's putting on pressure on you because he's waiting on this guy who's waiting on you. So again, you're feeling this pressure. This is where people would definitely buckle under the pressure and they would just pull out, and maybe they do it and this guy actually stops, or maybe they do and this guy runs the stop sign and injures everybody, possibly killing the passenger in this situation. Again, to do it correctly, you would go. But all you got to do here is wave this guy on. Okay, wave him on to go. Now, let's say he goes. What do you think this guy's going to do? When this guy goes, this guy will probably go. Let's say he turns right. So you've now eliminated this pressure and this pressure. Okay, and believe it or not, when this guy goes and this guy goes, you've also eliminated this pressure. And the reason why you've eliminated this pressure is because now you physically can't enter the intersection. You have a very good reason. See, a lot of times people feel pressure when they have an option. Okay, like let's say you're being tailgated and you have really good following distance. You have 3 or 4 seconds of following distance. You might feel the pressure to speed up because you have that option. You're going to feel selfish and say, nope, I have knowledge, I have discipline, I'm sorry about the guy in back of me, I want to have good following distance for all those wonderful reasons. But you're going to feel the pressure because you have that option of decreasing your following distance and getting closer to the person in front of you. So if you speed up and you start to tailgate the guy in front of you, I guarantee you, you are going to feel less pressure from the guy in back of you because now you can't speed up. It's like, hey, it's not my fault, everybody. The guy in front of me is just a slowpoke. Hey, it's not me. It's not me. It's this guy. You know, so a lot of times when you have an option, you will feel pressure. But when this guy goes and this guy goes, you don't really have an option to pull out. So that actually reduces the pressure there. So that's ethical. This guy goes, and by the time this guy goes and this guy goes, you'll be able to make a better judgment on whether or not this guy actually stops. Either this guy will run the stop sign or he'll stop. Now, I did have a student who said one time, well, what if you wave this guy on, he goes, and he gets hit by the guy that runs the stop sign there? Okay, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to go and say, you know what, there's a good chance that he could get run by the stop sign, so I better not wave him the right of way. I better go. You know what, if you're that kind of person where you can say, hey, you know what, maybe I'll take the collision instead of this guy, then great. But I'm sorry, but that's just not me. That's just not me. Now, if I wave the right of way to him and he sees this guy coming and he wants to deflect my wave, then that's fine. Then we'll both sit there. We'll both sit there. If I wave him the right of way and he says, well, no, I'm not going, this guy's going to go. And, you know, then this guy says, well, I'm not going. And I say, well, I'm not going either. Then we're just going to sit there. And keep in mind, this is only for a few seconds. This isn't like you're sitting there for over 10 seconds, maybe 5, 6, or 7 seconds. Okay. And of course, this guy's thinking, well, this guy's going and this guy's going. I'm just going to go. And of course, if he's turning right, it's not a big deal for him to turn right. This guy's not in his path of travel, so he can just do a right turn there. But if this guy does want to sit there, so basically I'm sitting here and he's sitting here and he's sitting here and we're all waiting on this guy, well then so what? It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's only a few seconds extra to make sure that you go through the intersection and you stay alive. That is the ultimate number one thing to know about a four-way or all-way stop, is getting through safely, not necessarily going through correctly, okay? And keep in mind, four-way stops can be very messy. You could know that you have the right-of-way and you start to pull out and somebody else pulls out too. Four-way stops can get messy. A lot of people just simply don't know how to do them. A lot of people have attention deficit disorder and can't keep track of everybody. And I mean, I'm not making fun. That's just kind of a real thing that can happen. Or you just get distracted. There's just so many reasons why a four-way stop can get messy. And in the end, all that matters is people get through safely. If it takes an extra 5 seconds or so, or maybe 10 seconds or so, oh well. Okay, so that is my philosophy on the four-way stop. Yes, it's nice to know who goes first, the procedure and everything, but you have to make sure that, hey, you're not going to get killed. So I would say this, as you're coming to a four-way stop, definitely look and see who's getting there first. Okay, see who's getting there first. And if that's you, or it's your turn to go, that's great. You take into account who has the right of way, whose turn to go. But then you have to override that feeling that you have to do it correctly. You override it with knowledge. Okay, with the desire to stay alive and with knowledge and knowing that, hey, every year thousands of people get injured or killed at four-way stop. Just drive out through the country. You'll see crosses at a lot of the four-way stops. And this may offend people, but I just think it's a little ridiculous to get killed at a four-way stop. Okay, first of all, you have the opportunity to a lot of times fix blind spots. You have to see who's going to kill you. Then when you see who could kill you, you say, hey, should I stay right where I am? Make sure that person comes to a stop. Yes. So in actuality, to me, it's extremely simple. There should not be, unless it's a really weird situation, but for the most part, there should be no reason at all to get hit or killed or injured at a four-way stop. Be selfish. Don't trust people. Fix visibility issues. Wave people on. There are simple little ways that aren't the correct way of doing it. There aren't the correct procedures, but there are simple little things you can do that only take a few seconds to make sure that you get through the intersection correctly. And if you do have somebody that keeps getting on your case that you're not doing it correctly, just, oh well. Just say, oh well. Don't argue with them. Don't try to give them a huge lesson unless you really want to. But just kind of say, okay, you know, but hey, that's the way I do it. That's the way I do it. We got through it okay. We got through it safely. Maybe it was a little messy, but we got through it. Okay? Again, don't get into a big argument with people, because some people really, they use the four-way stop as a way of judging sometimes your entire driving, how well you are as a driver in general. And so again, I taught students that didn't do the procedure correctly, but we made it through the four-way stop. And I said, you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. Make sure you don't die. Make sure you get through safely. Okay? Learn the procedure, understand the procedure, but understand that other people may not follow the procedure, which means other people may just run a stop sign. That's basically it. Okay? Anyways, I hope this helps and gives you an idea of the kind of lessons that I do, and of course a lesson on four-way stops and my approach to things and how I try to look at things from a safety point of view, a slightly or different perspectives on things. I mentioned ethical, safety, and legal here. I didn't get into financial perspectives or environmental perspectives or anything like that. But as you can see, this is kind of an example of my methodology as to how I teach, is looking at things from multiple perspectives: legal, safety, financial, ethical perspectives, mechanical perspectives with your vehicle itself. So anyways, I hope this gives you an idea. And again, on the third drive, this is kind of what I talk about. Not quite in so much detail, not quite as long, but hopefully, if anything, this could save your life. Okay, thanks. Bye.